So, hello everybody, and welcome to the Carrier Connect certification training. I'm very pleased to see you, to see so many people here in the room. This is a pilot we are going to do, and we want to do it with the other products too. So you will have a follow-up webinar tomorrow for control, and you have one on Friday for operator. This training, as you can see it in the title, should be a certification training, so everybody of you will have the ability and the chance to get certified. And this training and this webinar should help you and encourage you to take the exam. I would just like to present first the agenda for today. So basically we are going to the installation and deployment options. So I will show you the installation process with a virtual image I prepared. We will go through the wizard for the initial setup and the registration process. Then I will tell you something about the pre-installation steps you need to take care of, for example, the DNS setup. And then we go into a live demo, how to access Carrier Connect, how to manage domains and users, how mail is processed and delivered, and I will show you how you can configure your email clients, your various emails clients, and how Carrier Connect can help you setting up those clients. So, first of all, installation and deployment options. You have three abilities to use our Carrier Connect. So we have an on-prem installation, which will be, of course, the most interesting for you all. We have installations for OS X, Windows 32 and 64-bit, and Linux 32 and 64-bit. The reason why I'm not mentioning 32 or 64-bit for OS X is that the installer itself decides whether it needs to be installed in a 64-bit version or in a 32-bit version, but you can be sure that starting with 10.6 of OS X, if a program or an installation can be installed as a 64-bit, it will be installed as a 64-bit. Second option you have is virtualization, and this is what I'm using today to show you the installation process. We have a virtual appliance already completely configured and downloadable as an OVF or a VMX file, also 32 or 64-bit. So you can use this, for example, in an ESXi environment, or you can use it in a virtualized, even with VM Player you can use it. What we do not recommend on that. And the third option is Carrier Cloud, or let's say it hosting. If you would like to have a Carrier Cloud instance, this has changed. Please contact one of our Carrier hosting providers, and they would be happy to offer you the possibility to have a hosted Carrier Connect instance. So just to remind you, as it is, this webinar and this training should help you for the certification process and the exam you can take. Maybe this is one of the questions. When you have an on-prem installation, you have different default installation paths on the different platforms. So for Windows, it can be found on the hard drive in program files, Carrier mail server. On a Mac, it's /usr/local/carrier/mail server. You will not see this /usr on a Mac immediately, as it is a hidden directory. But you can go, if you choose in the Finder, go to folder, you can write /usr/local, and then you will go directly into this folder. Please be aware of, if you would like to tweak something in an installation path on a Mac, those changes can only be done when you're logged in as root. Same as for Linux. There you will find all the installation stuff in /opt/cario/mail server. A small side note for on-prem installation. We have here 3 different scenarios. I would say from the left to the right. The left thing is a standard installation. So as you know that Carrier Connect is not that demanding on resources. You can even run it on a 2-core machine with 8 GB of RAM, but we already recommend to have it all on a RAID 1. So if one hard drive fails, everything is on a second hard drive as some sort of backup. I know that a RAID is not a backup, but it gives you some security of any hardware failures. The second one is, let's say, the beta version of using Carrier Connect on-prem. There you will already have 16 GB of RAM and 4 cores, and you are dividing the operating system with the server software and the data store. So you have two separated drives where you have divided the Connect itself and the data store. And the high performance, I will say it, high performance version, you see it's basically the same like the performance version, but here you additionally have extra hard drives for the full text search index and for the archive and for the backup. So, big question. Hey Cario, which OS should I choose? So basically the answer is choose the OS you are comfortable with. It doesn't make any sense that when you are familiar with Windows or Linux or let's say OS X, that you start installing Carrier on-prem on a complete different operating system you are not familiar with. It doesn't make sense at all. The only advice or recommendation we can give you is when you really need a high performance installation, where of course you have lots of connections, lots of people connecting to the Carrier Connect, then you should better go with a Linux system. And I can tell you that even if I'm now for more than 20 years an Apple guy, Linux has the better file system. So it's faster, it's more reliable. HFS Plus, for example, on OS X is not the fastest operating system and the fastest file system under the sun. So before you install, now we have decided which operating system, you should keep in mind some additional pre-installation steps. So first of all, and this is I think one of the most important, you should have an appropriate internet connection. So it should be a reliable internet connection. It doesn't make sense to have your own in-house on-prem mail server, let's say when you are using a dial-up connection. It wouldn't make sense from my point of view. Then you should think about, and this is what we prefer and what we recommend, that you are using your Carrier Connect as a direct MX. So the Carrier Connect server itself is directly receiving and sending emails. Another option is a POP3 download, which I know from Marino, and maybe he can chime in and share his experience. The POP3 download is still very common in Italy, as far as I know, as the internet connections are not the best ones in Italy. Is it correct, Marino?
Correct, Carsten. When I've been traveling, also Germany as well, we have a similar request where people want to use the POP3 because they don't see their server as reliable, and they trust often the ISP. That's why we still have in high demand to keep the POP3 download as a feature. I know it's from the 90s, but there is a big demand from people to actually use the ISP as a primary source to get the email to, and then you will have also your on-premise solution as a secondary server. So this is very popular in Italy and in Germany as well.
Yeah. But to be honest, and maybe you can also say I'm right, maybe. When you're going via a POP3 download, you should also think about not sending mails directly from your Carrier Connect to the internet. You should use your ISP as a relay server, because if you're just doing POP3 download, but your mail server will send it directly without relaying via your ISP where your domain is hosted, you may get in trouble that you get a bad reputation of your mail server, as there is a difference between the receiving and the sending mail server. So this could be a problem. So when you're going to use POP3 download, you should also consider to use the relay SMTP via your ISP. Only problem or maybe glitch you are facing is, as Carrier Connect, in Carrier Connect you can only define one relay SMTP server, so you can't define a relay server for every domain you're using. So it could maybe a problem when you have multiple domains and they are not all at the same ISP. You may get a problem when you relay via this ISP. Correct, Marino?
Absolutely correct. It's all about reputation, and as you can see, Carsten, we've already been introducing more and more features where the actual sender and receivers, they need to match. And this is not just us; also the big providers are actually expecting more and more this type of services where the mail server sending and receiving is the same. If there is differences in IP addresses, then your mail could actually well be treated as spam, even if you are using a legitimate mail server. So the DKIM is something that we introduced recently, and that conflicts heavily with the POP3 and relay approach.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay?
So as the last point for the appropriate internet connection, when you're going as a direct MX, you should also think, and this is again what we prefer and what should be preferred and what we strongly recommend, is that you have a fixed public IP. As Marino already told you about mismatching of IPs and with domain names, when you're going via a dynamic DNS service, you could also have a problem that maybe other mail servers will rate your mails as spam or unreliable because when your domain, when your IP changes frequently, this is a typical scenario for spammers. You will not have a spammer sending from the same IP again and again. They will quickly change their IPs, and this could be a problem when you're going with a dynamic DNS service. So again, a fixed public IP should be the preferred approach. Second thing, which comes more to the hardware itself, you need to have an appropriate machine in place. I do not want to show you all the requirements we are recommending for the hardware. I would just like to encourage you to have a look at the system requirements on our Carrier homepage. And last but not least is get your DNS records ready. This is a very important thing. Think in advance of the internet host name. The internet host name is the name which is populated when some other mail server is contacting your mail server, or when your mail server is sending out something. This is the name it populates to the outside world, and you should be sure that you make the appropriate entries in your DNS. But this is everything I will show you later on. I just want to pick up the point with DNS ready. Is your DNS ready? This means you must create a record in your DNS zone file at your provider where your domain is hosted. For example, the internet, you need to create a record. For example, when the mail server's name is mail.binebrewing.com, you must create a record for mail.binebrewing.com. Additionally, if you would like to have your on-prem Carrier Connect as the MX, the mail exchanger for this domain, you should also change the MX record at your domain. Normally, your ISP has an entry for your domain that the MX, so the mail traffic, is pointing to the provider's mail server. This needs to be changed so that every mail which is going to your domain should point to, and we will follow the example, to mail.binebrewing.com. You can check everything with some good and cool tools on the internet. I will show you one of my favorites is mxtoolbox.com. It's so nice because even when you have only an iPhone or an iPad, you get a mobile version of it, and you can put it directly as a link on your home screen. So you can check everything is in place and working. So now I think it's time to switch to the demo. But I would like to encourage you and ask you if there are already some questions in place. So we will throw in the chat. So everybody, if somebody has a question.
Care of this, Carsten. I will put the pod.
Oh, perfect. So I can see there are people typing. Why you do not encourage people to use Enterprise Sans? Of course, you can also use Sans, but this is, again, you need to remember today is the webinar is for the certification process. So the thing is, today we are covering the basics, so you can pass the certification exam and you get a basic idea of the Carrier Connect. We will have advanced webinars and advanced trainings in the future, so where we are also definitely also covering things like putting something on a SAN.
Carsten, if you don't mind, I would like to help with the answer from Jarkko, to answering Jarkko. Okay, hi Jarkko. Thank you so much for asking the question. Just to clarify, the majority of the businesses we sell to, they are small and medium, small partners. So they have 10, 20, 30 users. So for them, RAIDs are actually the only way they can secure redundancy in the data. I know you, and there are other partners. There is another partner in UK, in Spain, where they have large installation. Absolutely, SAN is the right way to approach it with clusters and a fiber channel, which makes it even more reliable. Absolutely, and this is in terms of costs. That type of installation only start to make sense when you're talking about the thousands of mailboxes, multiple servers distributed across multiple hosts. This is the right approach, and often can only be seen the right trade-off when people have already collected enough mailboxes from the past, like you've done it. But for most of the people who are actually here today, they go towards the lower end, which is RAID before used to be enterprise, now is considered SMB. So thank you for asking that. But there are two separate type of scenarios. The one like you sell directly mailboxes, and the other ones as we said, in some customer base, like in Italy or Germany, where they have on-premise server, that would be more than enough for RAID. So it's open for both options, as long as the drive is seen as local. Carsten, back to you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. So I have prepared something here in advance. I'm using Carrier Connect virtual appliance here for showing you the initial configuration. I will just fire it up. So basically you see nothing. Normally you would see here, maybe I can bring it back and wake it up. Here we have it. When you're going with the virtual appliance, you will be presented at the end when you installed the virtual appliance on an ESXi or whatever I'm using, by the way, for example, here VMware Fusion Player. You are presented with a screen where it shows you which URL you need to enter to go for the further installation process and the registration process. So this is all you see. I'm now putting it away again, and I will do a restart because okay, perfect. So this is when you enter the URL in the upper left corner. I can make it a little bit bigger if you would like. As you can see here in the upper left corner, I just entered the URL which was presented on the ESXi, or in my case the VM player, and you are presented with this initial configuration wizard. It detects automatically the language you have chosen in your operating system, and I just switch it for better understanding. I switched it here to English. So you just click Next. And here is the first point you need to take care of. The internet host name. As I said at the beginning, the internet host name is the name under which your server can be reached. And the name it is populating to the outside world. So here in our case, you see Carrier Connect appliance, and now you should enter some appropriate name. So I'm going for our example, mail.binebrewing.com. Again, I need that you pay attention on this. I know that when people are using their Exchange servers and stuff like that, they start with .local or they start with .private or something like that. Please do not use .local or .private there, because this is a name of the server, how it will show itself to the outside world. So it would be necessary that you have an appropriate name for the internet host name. If this went wrong, it's not a problem. You can change it afterwards, but to avoid additional work, just decide the correct internet host name right here. Next is that you should enter the domain you are going to configure, and I will go for binebrewing.com. Just to make it again clear, normally you have like this mail.binebrewing.com when your email domain is binebrewing.com. They do not need to match. You can also, for example, when you look at the big providers, mail providers, you may have your domain at Strato. So the MX server name or the internet host name of the Strato mail server is mail.strato.com, but your domain where you're mailing from is, for example, I don't know, my name at flunderball.com or something like that. So they do not need to match. you only need to take care that this can be resolved. And how this can be resolved, I will show you later when I show you the DNS zone file. So we go to next. Here, you should define the first user. So per default, it's admin, and I'm writing some password. Again, this user will consume first, at the first installation, this will be a user which will be consumed, which will consume one of your licenses. You can switch later on to the internal, so no problem at all, but at the beginning you must define here the admin user. I go to next. Then you need to choose where your store, your data store should be placed. I would encourage you first, if you have not such a big installation, use the default one, as this is the default path Carrier Connect is using. You can even change it, but you can also change it later on. So we will just stay here with the default one. Very important is the note under in this window. If any antivirus software is installed on the Carrier Connect's host, make sure an exclusion rule for the store directory is created in the antivirus software. Otherwise, Carrier Connect may not work correctly, or we say Carrier Connect may work incorrectly. So the problem is if you have let's say, for example, an AVG antivirus, please make sure you exclude the data store of Carrier Connect. Carrier Connect is completely file-based. It's not a database like Exchange. This has always advantages and disadvantages, but when an antivirus solution is scanning continuously files in the data store of the Carrier Connect, and this antivirus solution is not designed for Carrier Connect, you may get in trouble and you may have a corrupted data store. So next, this is where we make it even more easy for you guys when you want to install something, for example, at a customer. Maybe you have already a license, then you can enter the license here, or you can go for the trial. If you click on trial, what I will not do now, you just fill out a form, and I think in between 3 minutes you get a mail with your license key, your trial license key. As I have a license file here in place, I will enter the license here. You even can say now I would like to buy one, but as I said, I already have one. I will just enter it. So I just need to switch over to my prepared license. I copy paste it here, and you need to go for this captcha. NHA9, and we go next. And here you can see all the information concerning this server. It's a Carrier Connect server. The number of users are 40. Software maintenance expires on the 25th of July. As it is a trial license, it will be valid for 30 days. And I have Sophos and I have ActiveSync in place. As a small side note to the extensions, so ActiveSync we have two paid extensions for Carrier Connect. One is the Sophos AV, which is an antivirus scanning It's a gateway scanner, so it scans all the incoming and outgoing mail on the mail server. And we have a second paid license, which is ActiveSync. ActiveSync is basically necessary if you want to have push email. So if a mail arrives on your server and you want it immediately appearing it on your mobile device, you should also consider of thinking buying the ActiveSync extension, as from the sales perspective, for you as a reseller or as a distributor, it's always good to have at least the Sophos AV extension for your customers, as we have made the experience that people are prolonging their software maintenance, where you also get money for it when a customer is prolonging his software maintenance. They more people are prolonging their software maintenance when they have the Sophos AV extension, because also the Sophos antivirus update will stop if you do not have a valid software maintenance. So I go next. Here you can see what I have. You can check if the organization is correct. Please be excused that you see some fields here not that clearly. It's only because I have made it a little bit bigger for you. So basically I agree. I go next. Oh, highlighted fields. Okay, it wants a phone number. I go for this. And it wants also a city, which is basically here is Frankfurt. It wants a street, so it's Sesame Street 4. And we have 6528. No comment. I say next. Allow Carrier Connect to send anonymous data to Carrier Technologies. It's not that we are sending private information of your server, that your server is sending private information to our servers. It's just, as it says, usage statistics. So it's for seeing how many people have used Exchange ActiveSync, what kind of hardware, and so on and so on. You have successfully completed the initial configuration. Carrier Connect must now restart. To complete the configuration, click Finish to restart Carrier Connect. And I click on Finish. The system is restarting. This will take a short while. Then you are presented with the login screen to the administration. I just type in the credentials I've just created, and now you may get a pop-up that your browser is asking you to save the credentials. I will say later. And you now get, and sorry, it's in German, because it again detects the browser language, which is German here, that this software maintenance will going to be expired in 30 days. This is normal because it is a trial license. I would say okay, and so for you that you can better read what you are seeing, I'm switching to the English language. I put the tile up here. So license details. That's still a little bit too big. I make it a little bit smaller. So here, this is where you've been presented at the beginning after your first installation. you see this dashboard. In the dashboard, you can see several information, like what kind of system you are using, which version. You can see the system status. You can see if Sophos antivirus is up and running. You see your license details. You can immediately see how many users have been already created and how many mailboxes have been used. We see here that one is created. I will show you why. You can add other tiles like disk storage info. You can add system health. And you can throw around those tiles to have an overview. So this dashboard is also optimized for your iPad, so you even can see those things on your iPad. So why is one user already created, and why is already one license, one user used by this license? So this is because at the beginning, as I said, I just created the initial user, which is called the admin. In this case, you can even name it, I don't know what, the Big Gatsby or something like that. If you would like to save this license, you can switch later this to the built-in administrator account. But you always need to be aware of the fact that when you are enabling this internal administrator, it will not consume any license, but this account will also not have any email box. So you need to choose if you would like to have an internal administrator without any mailbox, or would you like to have an administrator with a mailbox? Or you can go, for example, that way that you are enabling the internal administrator, which has no mailbox, and you grant one or two users the rights so they can administer the server. This is basically the way we are seeing the people are activating the built-in administrator, and they grant some IT guy in the company additional rights so he can also administer the server. Have you made the same experience, Marino?
Hi, Carsten. Yes. Yes, I've gone through exactly the same process that you've done. Absolutely no problem at all with that.
Okay, perfect. So this is what I wanted to show you with the initial installation process, and this is basically always the same with every installation you are doing. It doesn't matter if it's Windows, if it's Linux, if it's OS 10. We have changed the initial installation process, so everything is now web-based, so you can easily install and register the product after the install. So, any questions so far? Let's clear the chat. So if you have any questions, you can just start asking some questions.
Carsten, I've just been
Yes.
reported by Adam, our channel manager, that some partners are mentioning that the quality is not very good. So if anybody online doesn't hear very well, please use the chat again. We might change the speed on the transmission rate, but unless we hear anything negative about the quality, I would stick to where we are.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, thank you, Jürgen. Much appreciate. By the way, hello, Jürgen. Much appreciate that the quality is good on the Scandinavian in the Scandinavian part. So I think it's definitely not a problem from our side.
Thank you.
Good. At the beginning, I was talking about the internet host name. If you are falling back in your old Exchange style, let's say it, and you have accidentally used something like this .local or .private or something like this, you can change the internet host name later on. You just go on the in the domains section of your configuration, and in the lower right corner you see something which is named internet host name. The internet host name again is the name the server's populating to the outside world, and so this can be changed afterwards. There's a second very important button which is called public folders. With Carrier Connect you have two possibilities how to use public folders. When you click on public folders on this button, you can say unique for each domain. So folder sharing across domains is not allowed in Carrier Connect client, which means our webmail. So you can have a public folder for each domain separately, or you can say global for all domains. So all the domains you have created here will use this the same public folder structure. It depends a little bit on what would you like to do. So let's have a look here. For this demo, do you have an open directory to connect with Carrier Connect? No. This is all with the internal users database. Connecting to any directory service will be covered by one of the advanced trainings. But of course, we are supporting directory services which are basically Open Directory, which is from the Apple side, and the Active Directory, which is from the Windows side. Is it possible to get a recording of this, as the voice quality on my internet connection is very poor? Yes, of course. This will be recorded and it will be populated as an Adobe Connect recording in our partner portal. But I'm also running a screencast software, so my monitor and I hope also my audio is recorded. And you will find this link to the YouTube, to our YouTube channel, where you can also, so you have also the possibility to watch this this on your iPad or iPhone. Igria is asking, is it possible to have two domains on one IP? Of course, you can. You can create several IPs here. The only thing is you need that if you have several domains created here and you have one IP, one public IP, you need to be sure that the MX record of the additional domains is pointing to this Carrier Connect as the MX. So this is basically the example I gave you. When you look at the big hosting partners here in Europe, we have Strato or 1&1 and so on. They have as the MX server, they have, for example, smtp.1and1.de. This is the MX record for 1&1 and the internet host name, let's say it that way. And of course, then you can have several domains, but the MX record, the mail exchange record, then needs to point to this Carrier Connect. So is it explained thoroughly, Igria? Sorry if I'm pronouncing your name false, but this is how I read it. Okay, perfect. So let's continue. What I now want to do is, as we have this mailbindbrewing.com we have created here in our virtual environment, I would like to switch to a more live system. And I also have something for you, what you can do. So first of all, I'm going to another thing. So you see here mailbindbrewing.com. This is, for example, our live system. You can see it here that it's you can see it because here are in the dashboard you can see it's already up 11 days and 16 hours. Just as a small side note to this presentation, we have a virtualized root server, or we have a root server at webtropia.com where we have installed an ESXi. So also the training tomorrow and the training after tomorrow is using this root server as our training server. If you are interested, I can show you later on the vSphere configuration interface, so you can see how we have handled this. So we have here on a root server, we have installed a Carrier Connect, a Carrier Control, and a Carrier Operator. And they are all working together, which is very important for the webinar on Friday, as we then show you the intercooperation between Carrier Operator and Carrier Connect, and also which will be shown tomorrow. We will show you we can demonstrate you the new feature of Carrier Control, which is called reverse proxy, because as we have all three products on one single root server, Carrier Control takes care that when I type mail.bindbrewing, that it goes to my Carrier Connect. When I write firewall, it goes to my Carrier Control, and when I write PBX, it's going to my operator. So what I would like you now to do is, first of all, I'm going to delete some of the users here. Sorry, Julia, that I'm deleting you. Yeah, Bob is an administrator. I don't care. Yes. So I just deleted some users. What I would like you now, if you are interested in, to do is let's do some activities. I would like to encourage you to log in into this server, and you can see the credentials are training admin, and the first of all you need, of course, the URL. It's mail.bindbrewing.com. Let's make it bold, italic, save. And the username is training admin, and the pass is capital T for a training, 2, and now it's not the number O, it's the letter O, small, 1, 4. So please just try to log in. And just for showing you something additionally, I can show, let's switch here. And I see lots of people have already logged in. As I can see here in our status, when I go to active connections, I can see several people have been now logged in. This is by the way, also interesting maybe for you, you can check the active connections in the active connections window. You can switch on the auto refresh, so whenever somebody is logging in, you will see it here. And what I would like you now to do is please add a domain. We can do it together, or I will just wait a few seconds.
Carsten,
yes.
Can you just... Sorry, Carsten.
Yeah.
Bill Ferguson is asking if we can see the login again.
Yeah, of course.
Didn't have the time. But yeah, if you just make it slightly bigger as well. Thank you.
And James, of course, this was a trick, and it was so I was just testing if you are paying attention. Of course, you need to add /admin. Thank you, James. So I hope everybody sees the logins. So what I would like you now to do is adding a domain. And when you have added a domain, we just go through the actions. I see a finish. Oh, let's see if the server now gets overloaded. Okay. So what we are going to do now is setting a retention policy. So please double click on your domain. And first of all, I would ask you to see to have a look at the security tab. The security tab, there you can define for the local users, you can define a complexity that they need to meet the requirements of the complexity. This complexity can't be changed in this. Thank you, Luca. So if you maybe, as this is some test, and I think we have now approximately 90 persons attending this webinar, maybe too many people are running now on the server. So we just follow me on the screen. So first of all, you can set at the security tab, you could set the complexity requirements for the password. This only belongs to local users. If you have in your Open Directory or in your Active Directory defined some password requirements and complexity requirements, and you bound your Carrier Connect to a directory service, the policies of this directory service will be taken. This is only for the local users. Then we have this retention policy. So you can say under the tab Messages, you can limit the size of the outgoing mails. And this is something I would strongly encourage you to do, as I have faced people trying to send a 200 megabyte file via email, which is basically not a problem for the mail server, but which may slow down your internet connection. There are other products which should be used for sending such big files. For example, SamePage, where you can create an organization and put your files on. So I would just like to encourage you maybe to set some limit here. Even if you do not have set any limit, it could be that when you're using Outlook for Windows and you're sending an email which is bigger than 20 MB, megabyte, with a attachment bigger than 20 megabyte, Microsoft Outlook refuses to send this mail. But this is nothing of the Carrier Connect server. This is a limitation of Outlook. If you just look in our knowledge base for Outlook, this limitation can be solved with some registry tweaks. So next thing is that you have we have an automatic items cleanout. So whenever you would like, you can activate this, which means, and it's self-explaining, that deleted items folders will be cleared after 30 days, that junk email and sent items folders, this is maybe something you should not activate. The thing is, some of your users may be some, let's say, collectors. From my point of view, it doesn't make sense to have, for example, the trash can in your mail as some sort of archive. Archiving in a trash can makes no sense at all. This is something you should definitely tell your customers. If they would like to archive any mails, let them create some additional folders where they can put in those mails. Maybe you can give them the example. When you're going to put your trash in the litter box at the street, you're not going to the guy in orange who wants to empty this litter box. Please keep it, it's my archive. So maybe you can explain it that way. A very important thing is here, I believe, it's the deleted items recovery. You can set a day or the days after deleted items. So when somebody has deleted an email, how that you want to recover, there's no need to use our KMS recover tool. You can set here a policy that even deleted items will be kept for, let's say, 30 days. So you can easily recover mails, deleted mails for a user. You just go on the user in the administration interface, do a right click and say recover deleted items. Aliases. Here you can define additional aliases for your domain. So for example, you have beinbrewing.com, but you also have beinbrewing.net, beinbrewing.de, whatever. You can easily add here additionally aliases. So whenever somebody is sending you something to beinbrewing.net, it will also be received from your Carrier Connect. As we have seen that maybe the server is a little bit overloaded with this huge flood of people trying to access it, I will just go quickly to the actions and activities myself to show you the different those typical 3 actions you will be faced with. By the way, all the stuff you see here and all the training activities and all the training, so you are well prepared for the exam, can be found in the Carrier University section of the Carrier Partner Portal. We will send you a link afterwards. It's a downloadable PDF with some additional information and links to several knowledge base articles. As you can see, it's so pretty easy to fire up, let's say, for example, a VM player. You can go through the different different activities yourself, so you are well prepared for the exam. So if you don't mind, I would take over the activities myself. One of the next activities would have been that we are going to add a user to a domain, and this is perfect as we have our Finnish guy reseller was faster than everybody. We have now 2 domains, which is perfect. As then I can show you where you have to pay attention when you're creating a user. So let's go here. As you can see at the top of the window, you can see this domain entry. When you click on it, you see, and I see that there are several new domains already created. Perfect. You need to choose the correct domain where you want to create a user. So what I'm now going to do is to create a user under bindbrewing.com. So I go to add, and first you are choosing the username. The username is the name in front of the @ So when I type here, let's say Obama, then the email address will be obama@bindbrewing.com. So you need to think maybe in advance what kind of username you want to choose, as the username is equal to the email name people can then email to. So as I'm not that much creative in using usernames, and I hope nobody else has used it already, I'm going to use Müller, and then you type in the complete name, which is Thomas Müller, and then you can even add a small description: famous German football player, and then you can say how he should authenticate. As we are going here, as we are not bound to any directory service, I'm using here the internal user database. What you can do is, when you have added people via a directory service, you can have both. You can have the internal user database side by side to the directory-based user base. So you can have internal users, and you can also have users mapped from your directory service. This is maybe sometimes makes sense in case of your Active Directory breaks or something. You will still have a working internal user database. Now I'm going to create a password. Remember, when you activate the password policy also for internal users, they need to match some requirements. And as I said, those requirements can't be changed that easy. It can be changed when you go to the configuration CFG of the mail server, but be aware that this policy is pretty good, as it is. I can show you later on what we are thinking is a good policy for using passwords. As I do not have activated it for here, I will just type in a password. Then you can choose if the account is enabled. Enable the default spam rule that moves messages marked as spam to the junk email folder. So whenever a mail comes in and is marked as suspicious, it will be moved to the spam folder. Then you can say publish this information also in the global address list. This is the address list which can be seen by everybody in the domain. Then you can also activate user can change their password in Carrier Connect Client. Carrier Connect Client is the name of our new webmail. So be aware whenever you see Carrier Connect Client, this means our webmail. You can even say generate a password. It's up to you. Email addresses. So here you can see the email address which is generated from the information here. You can even add something. So for example, typical scenario is when you have people which are sometimes misspelled. For example, we have my former colleague, whose name was Kohls. Sometimes people forget to add the S, so they also write Kohl. So here, for example, an additional alias for him could be Muller. So also when somebody is writing to Muller, it will be received by this Thomas Müller. Here we have the new a new option, which is the contact. This can be interesting and necessary if you have some domain-wide footer. But all these footer information and how you can manage will be covered in an advanced webinar. Basically, you can even add a photo here. Let's see if I'm seeing some photo. I'm not very creative, as you can see.
Carsten,
yes.
sorry, afterwards, can you explain the GAL, the general
the global address list?
There is a question. Global, yes.
Yeah. I will just first enter the things here, and then we can also switch to the global address list. Müller, you can add some phone number. You can add his mobile number, even if he has a middle name or whatever. Let's say he is Office 354, 354, and it's department football, and his job title is defense. I can even say I can forward messages. So I can say, okay, I have this user here, but I also want to forward it to some additional email address, which can be also outside this Carrier Connect. And you can also tick if this should be delivered to both addresses. So the address which is created here in your Carrier Connect and also to the forwarded address. You can put him into some groups. And a very important point is here, it's the rights. You can define some restrictions. We have, I think it was first announced in 7.4, we have some access policies where you can define people can do webmail where they can or they cannot do webmail and so on. So here you can choose which access policy should be valid for him. In the server administration, you can define, okay, he should not be able to administer the server, or you can even say, okay, I want him that he can administer accounts in the domain he is part of. Or you can say that he can only read or he can read-write. Additionally, we have the administration rights for folder administration, which means we have public folders. So if you tick the box that he has folder administration for public folders and archive folders, the user can create public folders, delete public folders, and see the archive folders. So next to the quota, here you can again define a per user quota. So you can define that he should, for example, not exceed, let's say, a data store of 10 gigabyte. So whenever his data store will exceed the limit of 10 gigabytes, as an example, he will get a message that he has reached the limitation. Also, messages. Here you can again define some additional policies concerning messages. For example, you can say that this user is only allowed to send and receive emails within his domain itself. This maybe, for example, makes sometimes sense when you have, let's say, some trainee who's only working at your company for, let's say, 2 weeks, but you want him to have to communicate with the other colleagues. You can set for this user that he can only send and receive messages to or from his domain only, so he can communicate with the colleagues, but he is not able to communicate with others. As I've shown you at the domain, on the domain level, you can define the maximum size of the size of the email somebody can send out, which maybe sometimes it makes sense to grant some users, for example, CEOs, additional rights so they are not falling under this limitation, and then you can set it here, and it will override the domain limit. So you can set it higher, or you say do not limit message size. This will also override the domain limit you may have set, and will allow the user the size of a message you have defined here. You can even override the items cleanout. You can set it on a per user base, so you can have a global items cleanout where deleted items should be deleted, and so on and so on. Or you can even say, if it's disabled, you can say for this specific user, you can say no, deleted items folders should be cleaned out after 30 days, for example. I say OK. Highlighted field is incorrect, of course. I go here. I say OK. And now we have this Thomas Müller. As we had the question, what's the meaning of GAL? The GAL I will show you when I'm logging into Webmail. Basically, the global address list, which is the name or the long name of GAL. The global address list is an address list which is generated by the server itself, and it contains all the users you have created in your domain. So again, I will just double click Mr. Thomas Müller, and here you have publish in global address list. This is ticked on by default. So whenever you create a user, this information you have written here will be populated to this global address list. So there is no need to generate a separate address book for your users of your server. It will be generated automatically. We have one question here. You can now limit the amount of email boxes for domain, but is it on the roadmap that you could also set a total quota limit for the domain? Yes, it's on the roadmap, but I can't give you a time frame yet. So, additional questions. I can see some people writing here. No, the GAL is per domain. The name, the naming I know what you mean, Igriga. This is how Outlook is showing calendars. It even differs different from Outlook version to Outlook version. So one Outlook version is showing it like this, and the other is showing it like this. So we have an eye on it. We try to make it as simple as it can as we can. But sometimes these are restrictions and how the clients are handling it. We have another question. When you send an email to an address not in the GAL, does that email get added to the GAL by default? No. Because the global address list will be created from the users you have created on your servers, on your server. We have some additional questions. In the meanwhile, I will log in to my Carrier Connect client. So I'm logging in. I say later.
Can I answer Alex
Of course.
question? When you send an email to an address not in the GAL, does not automatically get inserted in the GAL. If you're using your local client, will be added. Let's say you're using Outlook, will be added to your suggested emails. If you're using Carrier Connect client and webmail, yes, would be added to that one. But the GAL is actually managed at domain level and is not managed by users. Otherwise, you will have an influx of emails sent from all around the company in the GAL. The GAL is a central and general place to put email addresses shared across the company. Alex.
Thank you. And as you can see, this is the GAL, the global address list. And as you can see, here are the people already entered, and you see here are all the appropriate fields I have filled out for in the users pane. So we have some additional question. If a user who has the own email addresses from two different domains, should I do create two different accounts? It depends, Roberto. It depends a little bit on the case. If you would like to spend a license, so the best approach is to have them separated. Another approach is to have some alias or domain alias, and also that when somebody is writing to him and it will be on the second domain, which is an alias of the primary domain, then he can also receive it. But if you want to separate it completely, you need two different domains with two different user accounts. Okay, perfect. As you can see, this is the address book of the Carrier Connect client, and you even can see here that the alias I have created is also shown here in his on his vCard, and I'm now logged in as Thomas Müller, just to show you that this will also be seen when I log in as someone else. I will log out Thomas Müller if I click the button correctly. I will just close it. And I will close this. Nice, Bastian Schweinsteiger. Mail.binebrewing.com. I think lots of people are actually connected. I'm logging in as myself. I'm going to the address book, and as you can see, I can see here also now I'm logged in as Carsten Maas, and I also see all the information I have entered for Thomas Müller, and I see that lots of German football fans are here today because I see Bastian Schweinsteiger and Manuel Neuer. Perfect. So, what I want to show you here in the Carrier Connect client is that you can change the schema. So if you would like to have it maybe more in a green way, you can just go into the green way. And you also have some additional abilities here, as you can go here to your settings. You can define a signature. You can define where you would like to have the preview pane. You can set the out of office. And the very nice thing is when you already know from what starting date to which end date your vacation, for example, is, you can already set it here. So you do not need to take care about it. The Carrier Connect takes care about switching it on or off. You can set delegations. So when you want somebody to act like as you can set it here. The most interesting part from my point of view is the mobile devices part, which is not so interesting at the moment because there is no mobile device at the moment registered to the server. But this is an interesting part. If you have your mobile device connected to your Carrier Connect, you can choose when you are connected via CalDAV or CardDAV, which means CalDAV is for the address book and CardDAV is CalDAV is for the calendar and CardDAV is for the address book. You can define what kind of contact folders should be, or what kind of calendar folders should be synchronized to your connected device. This is something you may have already noticed in older versions. You can here define the Exchange Active Sync folders, which folders should be synced. And if you would like to have your device connected to this server, there is an easy way, and I just would like to ask you if everybody is aware of how to connect a mobile device or a client to a Carrier Connect server. Just write it in the chat box. Okay, before I wait for 77 answers. Thank you, Alex. I have at least one who does not know it. Perfect. I will bring up my iPhone for you so you can see what I'm doing. So I'm going to synchronize. I hope it will show up. Yes. Okay. Here you can see my iPhone. Sorry, I cannot make it bigger. This is the biggest size I can show you, but be aware this is definitely my iPhone. I'm swiping from the right to the left, and you can see the movement. What I'm now going to do is I'm going to surf to my binebrewing.com server. Whoops, I missed a point. binebrewing.com. And as you can see, I'm presented with the login interface of my Carrier Connect client, the webmail, and underneath this login window you see, and sorry, it's spelled in German, Telefon einrichten, which means configure my device. When I click on this, a new window opens, and then again you will see it in your local language, because the server detects what kind of language you are using on your device. In my case, it's German. I'm going to mail, contacts, and so on. And now there is the first thing you have to pay attention. Per default, the iPhone or the iDevice will prefer to configure your mobile device as with CalDAV, CardDAV, and IMAP. So when you now click on continue, it will continue configuring your mobile device with CardDAV and IMAP and CalDAV. If you have bought the Active Sync extension with your Carrier Connect, you can choose Use Exchange Active Sync instead. And I'm now clicking on it. Now it asks you if you would like to have a secured or an unsecured connection. I say secured, and I hope this is working. It's all live. And as I can see, we have a heavy load still on the server. There is a question, are there any benefits using ActiveSync? Yes and no. I will go for the unsecure. I will answer this in a short while. Now I will type in my credentials, and I hope I do remember. Okay, this was wrong. Let's take Mr. Müller. And now you are presented that the server wants to install some sort of profile on your mobile device. And I just say install. You can ignore this. Now you have to type in the code of your device. And profile is installed. Done. If I now go over to my mail, you can see here we have a Müller@binebrewing.com. And when I click on it, of course, there is no mail actually. But you can see, for example, when I go to the contacts, I can see here, I will first, so it's more easy for you to see what I'm doing. I'm activating only the Müller@binebrewing, and I say done. And here you can already see all the users that are created on my server. Any questions? This, by the way, works also for for Android devices, we have there are some additional free apps you can use on or for CalDAV and CardDAV on your Android, which is named CardDAV Sync and CalDAV Sync from dmfs.org. They can be used on your mobile device to create some CalDAV and CardDAV account. So the question was, what is the benefit of having ActiveSync? Let me answer this question in another way. I just would like to tell you the differences. With ActiveSync, you have from my point of view, basic advantage is that you have push. So whenever a mail hits your server, it will also you get a notification on immediately on your mobile device. The disadvantage somehow for push for this ActiveSync is that when you answer an email from your mobile device, you will not see these answer or forward flags on your normal client computer, as the ActiveSync protocol we use at the moment on Carrier Connect cannot synchronize those forward and reply flags. Another advantage of Exchange ActiveSync using on an iDevice, on an Apple device, is whenever you have subscribed to some calendars of a colleague, you will be not annoyed by any reminders your colleague has maybe set in his calendar. When you're going via CalDAV, you also get those reminders, even if it's not your reminder, from subscribed calendars. But this is a glitch on iOS we cannot influence. The big advantage of using IMAP, CalDAV, and CardDAV is it's for free. You do not need any additional extension, as this is an extension which needs to be paid. And of course, you have this forward and answering flags synchronized across all clients. So I just reading one of the questions. We're talking about the client. We have a customer who is complaining of long wait times when switching between folders. I think it may be due to large volumes in each folder. Is there a way to speed this up, perhaps compressing the mail? Alex, I would encourage you to contact your local distributor. Alex, seems like you are sitting in Germany. Please correct it if I'm wrong. So I would like to encourage you to contact maybe Brainworks, which is taking care of German support, or please contact our support at Carrier itself, so they can investigate with you how to maybe solve this problem. Jarko just is writing, yes, there is apps for Android, but will this feature come also for Android? I mean, the way it is now for iDevices. We are working very closely with the developer of the CardDAV and CalDAV Sync application for Android, so that it will automatically configure your device when you just type in the server URL. So this is something I'm knowing. Okay, sorry, Alex, England. Sorry. So we're working very close with the developer of those two tools for Android, and as far as I know, they are pretty close to have something similar for the Android devices. For email, the thing is, it's another story. As the handling on Android devices is completely different from iOS devices. In iOS, you can create these profiles I just showed you, and this is, as far as I know, not possible on an Android device. By the way, before we continue, or before we will go on with the configuration, is it so far useful for you? Perfect. So nobody fell asleep, and you are all still with me, and I can see that we have not lost anybody.
Larsen, there was a question
Yeah.
still from Roberto addressing, asked to address like multiple accounts, the aliases in domains and everything. So I'm not sure. Maybe if we can take it later on, if we have the time.
If we have the time, we can take it.
To answer.
We can take it on later on, or maybe as I think Roberto is in very close contact with you, maybe you can discuss it.
But it's also very good to let people know how to actually, what would be the difference, because this is something that we always get asked. Do we create an alias on the domain? Do we create two domains? So if we have time at the end, would be very good for people to know what we indicate. Doesn't mean you need to apply, but different scenarios and
absolutely.
Absolutely. Just keep in mind for the end.
Absolutely. So Marino, we should take care that we are not flushing the chat, so we can scroll up and have a look at it. There's a question. There's also more advanced webinars coming about Connect. Of course, this is what I said. We will. We are thinking already about different topics. For example, my American colleague Brian Carmichael will hold a webinar. I think it was at 23rd of July about how to maintain your mail flow. So, for example, that you're not always on some blacklists and stuff like that. But this will this will be pronounced. This will be promoted and announced in the Careo Partner Portal. Sorry, Marina.
At the end of July, there is also a vertical webinar, how to migrate from Exchange, which will be run by my colleague and I, Anton, and will be showing how to migrate from an Exchange server to Careo Connect.
Absolutely.
Please keep an eye on the announcement on the Partner Portal.
Exactly. So what I also now I'm switching over. I'm switching over to the web administration, as there are some points which I think are very important, and you should be aware of it. When you go to your Careo Connect administration and you go to the configuration, you see this here at the top, which is called services. Here you can see all the services Careo Connect is able to run. And as you may have already noticed, I make it a little bit bigger and again a little bit bigger. As you may have already noticed, some of them are striked out or red and some are green. What I would like to encourage you is that you disable, and I mean it like I said, to disable any service you are not using on your Careo Connect server. So every service you are not using is one service less, which may be a point where somebody can do bad things on your server. What you can see here basically is that I have stopped every unsecure service. The thing is, we still have these unsecure services running, because I do not really know why, but sometimes you have some ancient installations. People have not used secure connections anymore. So when we just if we will just drop the unsecure services, we may get some trouble with some installations. But from my point of view, you should always be aware that you should only use the secure services. And before somebody is asking, okay, Carsten, why is SMTP still alive and not not only the secure SMTP? If you stop the unsecure SMTP server, I can give you a 100% guarantee that you will not receive any emails at all. Because first, most of the mail servers are first trying to connect to your server in an unsecure way, and then they are maybe switching to the secure SMTP. But when you are turning this off immediately right from the beginning, I can give you a 100% guarantee that you will never ever receive any emails. So the SMTP service is the only service you still need to have opened and running in an unsecured way. On this services window, you also see the ports which are used by these services. And this brings us directly to the next point. What ports need to be opened in your firewall for incoming and outgoing traffic? So as you can see, the IP, the ports the server is listening to, these ports need to be opened in your firewall so you can receive secure SMTP and send receives, that you can have a secure IMAP connection, and so on. We have a very good knowledge base article about the services which should be activated or deactivated. This will be also shown at the end of this webinar on the webinars appropriate web page in the partner portal. Additionally to those ports, there are some special ports which need also be opened on your firewalls. For example, it's port 4040, so 4040, because this is, as you may have noticed, the port how you can access the web administration. There's another port, and this port will be definitely necessary if you're using the gray listing feature of Carrier Connect, and it's the port 8045. 8045. This is also a port which is definitely necessary if you are going to use the gray listing functionality. Again, things like gray listing and spam assassin and stuff like that. So all the anti-spam and technologies we are using, like spam assessing, gray listing, blacklisting, sender policy framework, and so on. This will be covered in an advanced webinar, and I think Brian will cover this in his webinar on the 23rd of July. So again, please take care and have a look at those ports, and please disable every unnecessary service. I would go for that you should only use the secure services. Another pretty important part I'm going to switch to is the logs section. This is a very interesting and very good way how to troubleshoot the Carrier Connect. In those logs are different are splitted in several separate logs like the config, debug, error, and so on. Basically, on the config log, you can see any changes made on the server. So you can see here we have set rights for a public folder. We have created and updated a user. So this can everything be seen in the sorry in the config log. To get an overview of the different logs, you can just point your browser to our knowledge base, and it is article 1126. And there are the type of logs and what you can do with these logs and what information you find in these logs is explained in this. Again, at the end of this webinar, maybe tomorrow, you will get a link to the partner portal, to a partner portal page where you can find all the interesting and necessary knowledge base articles so you can pass the exam. So, as I'm pretty near the end of my presentation. I would like to switch to two additional things. First of all, I would show you this pretty nice tool, which is called MX Toolbox. It's a web page. There you can easily check, for example, if you have created your DNS records correctly. When I'm going here and type in my domain, which is binebrewing.com, and I make a lookup, it brings back that the corresponding mail server, MX server, is mail.binebrewing.com, and it will be available on this IP address. If I now want to know if I have a correct reverse lookup, so if I have created my DNS records correctly, and I want to see, okay, is this IP address also resolving backwards to mail.binebrewing.com, I can just click here on the domain, and it says, okay, mail.binebrewing.com. When you see here, when you do the reverse lookup, you see something different from your internet hostname, then you may have a problem with your DNS records. Then you may have not created the correct DNS entry. I will just show you this on our DNS. So our domain is hosted by GoDaddy. Manage my domains. I will go for another one. I will go for my private, which is a good idea because then I can train my spam filter if anybody of you wants to send me some mails. I go here, I go to the name server entries, and let's go for this one. And as you can see, I have created a record. So mail.bismack.de is resolving to my public IP address. And I'm also saying that the mail exchanger for this domain, bismack.de, is mail.bismack.de. So you need to take care that the DNS entries are correct. And if you can check this with this nice tool, MX Toolbox, to see if the reverse lookup is working and if that you have set it up your DNS files correctly. So basically,
So,
that's it.
hi, Carsten.
Yeah.
Sorry, can I, Carsten?
Yeah.
Hi, can I just ask you a question regarding this part here? Could be a case that when people have two different pointer, one forward, one backwards, that they may be using an external service to do spam. So some people often they want to have like an external service where they put their MX record on an external cloud service which does the anti-spam before going to connect. So you will have no symmetry between the MX record going towards your pointing to your mail
So you
server,
have a difference
and
between the
which is also
PTR record and the MX record. This can happen, so but
correct.
I think when you have some anti-spam appliance in front of. The thing is,
Correct.
you need to take care that the DNS records archive, when they differentiate the PTR and the MX record, so if your internet host name cannot be looked up in reverse, you may have a problem that you
Yes.
will be rated as a spammer. So you definitely need to take care
Correct.
that the forward and back reverse lookup points to the same IP or internet host name. This is a pretty common problem.
Okay. I also, yeah, probably, in fact, I believe if you click on SMTP test, it should, in the screen you're showing, it should be showing you exactly the one at the bottom. If you go a little bit more down, you will have a more, yeah, it will also be able to tell you which mail server is being used at the front. If you click
yes.
in the middle here, in the second part, SMTP test on the right, go on your right.
Just a sec.
Yeah. So this will actually prompt now an injection into the SMTP server and will respond what type of mail server. So you can see at the front, the first thing responding Carrier Connect. So if you see something that is not actually Carrier Connect, it could be an external service, you know that it's still okay, and you will have differences in the forward and in the reverse.
Absolutely. So, any other questions? There was one question from Roberto, so we may need to scroll up a little bit to see if we are seeing the question again. Or I
do remember the question as well. If you wish to.
What I can also propose is, as we are not deleting the questions we have here in the chat box, we can put the question inclusive the answer also on the appropriate page on the partner portal. But if you remember the question, just repeat it, please.
Yes, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Okay, so if you don't mind opening up Carrier Connect interface, what the question is about, how do we handle, for example, two companies? So this is very common scenario. So if you go in the domain side, and you will have two cases. It's Marino. I'm working for two companies, and they have two domains. It's hardware.com and software.com. If these are two physical separate companies, you possibly need to create two domains called hardware.com and software.com, for example. And both must have the name Marino, okay? Because it means I need to send emails, I need to receive emails, but also I need to send emails. If, for example, you bought an old domain, then at this point, Carsten, if you don't mind double-clicking on that, and the second tab will be, the aliases. This you can actually click on aliases, and you can put something like your main domain is hardware.com, but you also have software.com. It means people will still be able to send you emails. They will be able to be mapped, so everything will go in one, but on the mail out, will always go out from the server sending it as hardware.com. Then you can have reputation problems. Okay, so to save accounts, you create aliases at the domain level, and you use your clients such as Outlook or the Carrier Connect client to send emails out. But if you want to have a proper reputation, two separate domains, you must have two separate domains. And often they are actually two legal entities. So if you have domains in Italy and Germany and UK, you need to have three separate domains and be handled properly in that way, even if the same person has three accounts.
Exactly. So Slavic is just pointing to when you have spam repellent active, this SMTP test may not work. Correct?
Correct.
Absolutely correct. Spam repellent is, I think it's it's something we have invented. Marino, do you still remember how I demonstrate how spam repellent works?
That's it.
This game, Hello Mail Server. Do you still remember this game?
No, I can't.
Okay.
Yes, basically, to send an email out, Carsten needs to. I have server sitting on, and I need to contact Carsten server. I will say hello, and if I get response within a couple of seconds or milliseconds, I will start to make an attempt to transfer mail. Spammers, they have to send, and I'm not joking, thousands of emails a second. So if they get 20-second or 30-second response, they will not be able to actually deliver what they need to do in terms of payload. So as soon as they have a 10, 15, 20 seconds, from a human perspective, 20 seconds is nothing. From a spammer, it's very, very much a no game. For them, they will be out, and when the hello doesn't respond within a second or two, they will move on to the next IP address.
Absolutely.
So do enable it, and this is the best you can actually have in terms of protecting yourself from being attacked.
Exactly. So, yes, that's basically all from me for today. I hope you have enjoyed the webinar a little bit. Thank you everybody for joining this webinar, and thank you for answering the questions or the polls. And I hope to see you maybe tomorrow for the control and maybe on Friday for the operator.